You are listening to a podcast by the Little School of Happiness. My name is Sandra and I'm your host. Here you will find episodes on all the Vedic teachings like yoga, Ayurveda and Vedic astrology. For more information about me and my offerings, please go to sandrahayes.eu, or if you're in Germany, sandrahayes.de. Hi, Aoife, there we are again. How are you?
I'm really well. It's great to see you. Well, I can see you on screen.
Yes, I can see you.
Everyone can hear you on the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Very good. Yeah, I was looking forward to this episode. It's actually, we were going to talk about something very special, Rahu and Ketu today. I find these very, very interesting because, they're very telling features in a birth chart to me. I tend to kind of go, pretty straight to Rahu almost. I look through the basics, but Rahu stands out for me. I don't know if you're the same, but I find Rahu very, very telling in order of the when it comes to what does the person really need to experience in this life, karmic experiences, karmic how we experience the world around us.
It's very telling. And I suppose for people who aren't familiar with Vedic astrology, they mightn't even have heard of Rahu or Ketu.
Yeah.
And they are unique to Vedic astrology. So Rahu and Ketu they're called Kshiya grahas, aren't they? They're shadow planets.
And they're not technically not planets like also the sun or the moon aren't planets. They're shadow points. Exactly. They're mathematical points.
Yeah, they're mathematical points, angles of the moon. And they're given, quite a high value in Vedic astrology, which points to how important they are in terms of karma.
Yeah. I think in Western astrology, they're referred to as the moon nodes, the northern and southern moon node. It's kind of pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But in the Vedic astrology, there is the beauty of the mythology attached to it that really, to me, explains it all, because it's these are patterns of the DNA of the soul that we see in the sky and in the birth chart. And the soul's language, to me, it's very symbolic and archetypal, and so you can often learn from the stories, from the mythology, so much more than from any technical translation. So it's a really beautiful story. Do you want to tell it?
I was going to say, do you want to tell it?
We can both.
Would you like me? You go first.
Okay. So this is a story that has to do once again with the dualities. In the Vedic mythology, there are many stories about how the gods and the demons fight. And it's really the dualities of, not that the demons are always good, always bad, and the gods are always good. It's not really like that. It's just the demons represent the powers of the material world and of the earth, and the gods represent the powers of the heavens, like the sun or the wind and the sky. And we need both in order to gain life. If you want anything to grow, then both of these forces have to work together. And in this particular story, it was like that as well. The gods wanted to churn out the nectar of immortality out of the ocean, the milk ocean, which is really looks very much to me like our galaxy, the Milky Way, because it's like a spiral shaped, literally looks like a foaming kind of a milky ocean that's being churned, that's spiraling around, and everything comes from it. Everything emerges from that spiraling of that galaxy. And the gods, they wanted to churn out this nectar of immortality to make themselves immortal. And they knew they could only do that, they could only achieve that when both sides of the dualities work together. So when they work together with the demons, then they can churn it out. And so they convinced the demons to work with them. But this is a good example again of how the gods are not always the good ones and the honest ones. They did try to deceive them. So they churned out this nectar of immortality, and they did this with a snake of the energy, the pure primal energy, and Mount Meru, which is this very mythical mountain that represents the spine, among others, actually, the body and the spine, the nervous system. And when the nectar came out, the gods tried to distract the demons through, beautiful woman. And in the meantime, they wanted to drink the nectar themselves. And they almost did this, but one of the demons, and I don't remember his name now, maybe you remember his name. Yeah. So he was quicker, and he already got a little bit of the nectar before Vishnu caught him, and he threw his disc at him and cut him in half. But it was too late, and he already had the nectar. So that means he became immortal as two halves of one demon. The head of that demon is Rahu, and the body is Ketu. And they are two halves of the same. So they're always exactly across from each other. And this story is really nice, again, because if you imagine this demon that only has a head and no body, then it has a mouth, it can eat, it has eyes, it sees things, it wants things, it has a brain, it's really intelligent, and it really wants something, but it doesn't have the body to digest it, to eliminate it. Again, he just is greedy for something.
Insatiable,
exactly. So he does stand for the things that we are greedy for in life, consciously or unconsciously. Mostly it's unconsciously, experiences that we really need in this life. And it's said that Rahu is the future and Ketu is the past. So Rahu is that which we're going toward. These are experiences that we haven't had yet. We have to make them in order to grow in our soul. And Ketu is the opposite. Ketu has no desires whatsoever. He just lets go. He just eliminates. He just lets go of everything. And through those, we can see a lot, of course, in the chart.
Yeah, of course. He's the tail of the serpent, completely detached. Ketu has really nothing to do with the world. It's very interesting. We look at Atmakaraka in a chart. What is your highest zodiacal degree? That's your soul's desire. And a lot of Jyotishis will take Rahu into consideration, actually. And in fact, Rahu is my Atmakaraka.
Is it? Very interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Tricky, interesting. Yeah. But never Ketu. Ketu is completely detached. He doesn't want to know. I remember saying this to Marianne, they're slippery. Like they're mysterious, they're slippery. And she's like, Aoife, they don't want you to understand them. And I think that's it. That's exactly it. It's karma. It's beyond us. And there's a really interesting thing that can happen in a chart, which I've seen a few times. And it happened at the beginning of COVID as well. We talked about that in our previous podcast. Something called Kala Sarpa.
Yeah.
Caught up in the serpent of time, which means that all of the planets are caught up within the nodes.
Yeah.
And it is it makes for a very unusual time. It makes for a very unusual life if you have this as part of your chart, because they are connected to time and space, which is beyond our understanding, really. And Rahu is a tricky one to work with because, well, on many levels, it's Ra is sun, Hu is veil. It's shocking. It removes the veils of illusion. So you think you understand the world. You walk around in the world. I know who I am. I know this is this person. This is what I have. And then coming into maybe a Rahu dasha or having a Rahu return or Rahu being very activated in your chart, suddenly the blinds go up and you think nothing is what it seems. And these events can be shocking. I often think of the accident that you had in your youth. That was a very Rahu experience for you to have and change your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a complete transformational experience. Very
And
much
to go through the Rahu Dasha, so as we've mentioned before, there's periods of time in your life where you're going through a time of this planet. So we're all going through a different part of our dasha at any one time, determined by the moon placement in your birth. Rahu Dasha is 18 years.
Yeah.
Now, that is a long time. And you never want to be alarmist when you do a reading. But when I see Rahu Dasha for someone in their teenage years, I think, oh, I hope they'll be okay. Because you don't want to have an insatiability in a time where you're reckless. You haven't emotionally developed yet. And Rahu, of course, with the impressionable moon, we do know can indicate in certain cases addiction.
Yeah.
You just cannot satiate your need. And it can be challenging. Now it's a roller coaster time, and it's a time for transformation. Because represented by the snake, I mean, the snake is representative of wisdom, but also poison, you know.
Yeah.
This Amrita is what they say in yoga you might get to taste, you know, if you do headstand for long enough. If you've heard that. That's what the gods are after, the nectar of immortality.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is what the serpent is connected to, this wisdom, you know, this sense of immortality. And Rahu is here to teach us this. And I think if you're not getting the message, Rahu will kick you in the arse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really, really good point that you're saying about if you're having your Rahu Dasha when you're young, because all the difficult planets, when you have them young, they're even more difficult because, you know, it's harder to handle it. And also Rahu only matures at, I think it's age 42, isn't it?
40, yeah.
Yeah,
and it's the second last planet to mature.
Exactly. Ketu is the last one at age 49. And I mean, we all know what, you know, these are significant ages for most people. 49, how many people do I know who separated from a long
divorced or
marriage, you know, at age 49 or, you know, and it's
change career.
Absolutely. And what I find, though, is that as difficult as both of them can be, they are also, Rahu, for example, he is the one who brings things into the material world. He is the demon of the earth, and he brings experiences into the material realm. So whatever we need to learn on a soul level, he manifests it in the material world. And that may not always be a happy place, because our soul, of course, wants to be, the ultimate goal of the soul is to be free. So the experience that we have to make, are there for us to learn and to be free of conditionings and to shed the illusion, like you said.
And this is what Ketu then adds. But of course, I think with Rahu, it's a case of be careful what you wish for, because it can bring fame. And actually, do you remember the charts we looked at in Sardinia of the royal family? Ketu was very strong in the royal family.
Much, in all of them, in the royal family.
Ketu in the 8th house for a lot of famous people, David Bowie, Frida Kahlo, and Prince Charles. And not necessarily people that were comfortable in the limelight when they got the limelight, because Rahu teaches you that, okay, you might think you want this, but are you happy? And it encourages you then to realize, actually, you know, it's not about the material.
Exactly. This is the difference again between, Rahu wanting to experience something because it hasn't experienced it yet. And once it experienced it, then there is always like a side effect. It's almost always not quite as we expected it to be. Rahu in the 10th house, this is, for example, what Trump has, the desire to be in the limelight, the desire for fame. And at the end, it's not necessarily exactly what we are aiming it to be, because his fame is a little bit controversial and questionable. Where Ketu, when somebody has Ketu, a strong Ketu will elevate you anyway, because like as in the example of the royal family, Ketu is the one who is detached. And when you're really famous, you are detached because you are, you have a lot of followers maybe, or a lot of fans or whatever, but they're not really close to you. You're not really close to anyone, and you need a strong Ketu for that.
Yes, but the interesting thing to me, and yeah, that's completely true, is that Ketu is about renunciation and detachment.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say this from personal experience.
Yeah.
Because the Ketu Dasha is 7 years as opposed to the Rahu Dasha of 18 years. And I am in my last 6 months of Ketu.
Yeah.
And it is, it's a very spiritual planet, Ketu. But it wants you to be the renunciate. It wants you to detach from everything and isolate yourself from the physical world. And there's different ashrams of life in yoga, and I'm in the midst of my householder ashram here. And it's a difficult, because it's a pull from it wants you to run away from the world. And it's a calling to be introspective, which you have to honor in a way that supports how you're feeling, but it can be difficult to honor. But the beauty of the dasha system is that it always runs in the same order. And this is what I find fascinating. So prior to Ketu is Mercury.
Yeah.
And Mercury is about the intellect, about communication, about commerce, right? So you're in the world, you're communicating with people, you're learning, you're going to college, you're studying, you're part of society. And then Ketu comes in, and you're in a totally different space of introspection, spirituality, and in depth, dark night of the soul stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Then you come out of Ketu, what do you come into? 20 years of Venus, abundance and love and
absolutely, exactly.
Romance, and you're back out there.
Absolutely. And after Venus comes the sun. After it's all about love and the other person, then all of a sudden it's all about you.
The self. Sitting on your throne.
That's exactly.
Yeah. And there are, of course, famous people with strong Ketus, because they say that Ketu is the razor's edge between enlightenment and insanity.
Yeah.
And especially if Ketu is with your moon. Now, of course, you need to take your full chart into account here. But two people that had this, Ted Bundy and Sri Ramana Maharishi.
Yeah, exactly.
Two ends of the spectrum. Because Ketu can be spiritual, but if it's, it's without going into it, if it's in a tricky placement, or, it's challenged, or
the shadow side of it.
Yeah, it can be perverse, and it can be cruel.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the flip side of detachment and spirituality, because the Dalai Lama has Ketu in his first house as well. So
it is, Ketu in the first house, because I have that as well. And what it often means is that in the beginning of your life, because the first house is also the very first part after your birth, what happens then? And often what happens then determines what will happen later in life. And often this has to do with a separation, or either a separation from the mother, from the parents, or at least a kind of a feeling of separation, that you're a little bit different or not quite, connected to the family like maybe other people are. I think that a lot of people with Ketu in the first house will probably have some kind of experience like that. And it was certainly like that for me. I didn't grow up with my mother or my father, and was in a different community with my great-grandmother. And this is the first experience in life, and that sets up the stage really, for and for me, it was a beautiful experience, because I was brought up by a all-female community of aunts and grandmothers, and I had a really beautiful experience in those first few years with that Ketu influence. But I don't know Ted Bundy's history, but I could well imagine that he had, maybe he had with a Ketu in the first house. Did he have a Ketu in the first house, or was it just a moon conjunction?
Just with his moon, I think.
Okay, yeah. Whoever has a Ketu in the first house, it could be also not such a good experience. And if other factors in the chart, for example, if you don't have a strong moon, that can actually psychologically handle things really well. And my moon is very strong at home in Cancer. It's a bright moon. So for me, I can handle it very well, but maybe in a different chart where Ketu is in the first house with the moon, but the moon is not so strong. That means that psychologically that person might be also a little bit more vulnerable. And depending on many other factors, of course, it can then set the stage for a different development rather than a spiritual path. It could also be more detrimental in terms of mental health.
And we were talking about Gina Lahan earlier, and she has some great YouTube videos about Rahu and Ketu in particular.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Her take on this is, I really like. It's where you look at Ketu in your chart, where it's placed is from the past. So Ketu represents the past. So this is your past life and what you resolved and what you were comfortable with in your past life. So maybe it's an area of your life that isn't too uncomfortable in this lifetime, because perhaps you resolved it. Whereas Rahu, which by the way is always 180 degrees away, so they're always 7 houses apart at the same degree and the same minute. This is what you've come into this life to work through in terms of karma. So as you said at the beginning, this is you now and the future and what you're resolving. And they say also with Rahu that it's rocket fuel. And whatever planet it's with, it adds rocket fuel to that planet. Yeah. Intensifies everything. And when we have a return of where at the nodes where at the time of our birth, we have something called a nodal return. And often this can be triggering, and a lot of resolution of karma can happen. And at the moment we're recording this, Rahu and Ketu are about to move. They stay in a house for 18 months, so quite a long time. And towards the mid-end of May, Rahu will move from Pisces into Aquarius, and Ketu will move into Libra, because this is the thing about them. They're slippery, they're mysterious, they move backwards.
Yeah. Ketu is moving into Leo, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, Leo. Yeah, of course. Yes, moving backwards. Exactly.
Yeah, they always move backwards. Yeah, that's another thing about them. They always go retrograde. Retrograde
all the time.
Yeah.
And what is the power of them? Like, we talked about karma, of course, and how that's representative in the chart. But I always go back to, when I explain it to clients, the power of Rahu and Ketu is that they're angles of the moon with the power to eclipse.
Yeah.
So when we come into eclipse season, which we're just coming out of the end of now, the eclipses will happen when Rahu and Ketu line up with the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
And the way I think Marianne explained it is that, the sun is life-giving. And on a deep psychological level, when we're cut off from our source of life, it is, deeply troubling on a psychic level.
Yeah.
And so even if we're not in a part of the world where an eclipse is visible to, the naked eye, on a deep psychological level, we feel those eclipses, like landmines going
Absolutely.
off in the subtle body and the psyche. But they're opportunities. They're opportunities, but like the few that we've just had recently, because the intensity of the conjunctions was so tight.
Yeah,
you feel the ripples, and it's months they ripple out like dropping a really heavy stone into water. We're still
absolutely.
feeling those ripples.
I think I'm not sure, did Marianne say that it's like the wheel of time is stopping for a moment, the prana is stopping, and then when it starts again, it could start in any other direction. So it's always an opportunity for change, for something different, on a personal level as well as on the world stage, as we are about to experience a lot of changes. I'm sure of it. And the thing is about Rahu, as difficult as he might be, but we are here on this planet to experience things on the material level. And we can't learn something fully if we haven't embodied it completely in the material world as well. So we need the Rahu. I think we need those experiences. We can't just sit on the mat and meditate all day long and then go out into the world and not have a clue and then go or meet our families or meet our mothers or children or husbands and have conflict. So if we are only happy when we're sitting in meditation, then we haven't, really reached that spiritual development that we actually maybe are aiming for. So we do have to experience everything in the real world, in the material world, and Rahu is helping us with that for sure.
That's it. Our soul is here to experience all of life and all of the emotions.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. As troubling as that can be sometimes, because of course they are considered malefic. But if we're talking about Rahu and the intensity of Rahu, it can bring someone a lot of money, and that's okay.
It can manifest. Rahu can certainly manifest very well. And I think this is my theory now. I'm not sure if this is true, but I think that especially in that area where Rahu is placed in your chart, that's the area where you are able to manifest particularly well, because it's attached with sufficient desire, real emotional desire. Now, for me, it was always because my Rahu is in the 7th house, and especially when I was younger, it's relationships. I always felt like I needed a relationship. I was searching for love and, falling in love probably far too quickly as well. Now, this is also my Venus maybe in Pisces, but the combination of both, definitely. But what I've learned now, at my age now, what I've come to the conclusion that actually it was really important for me to experience those relationships, because through Rahu, this is what I had to learn in this life, to experience myself through the other person. Because with my Ketu in the 1st house, I am actually quite comfortable with myself. And I am quite confident as well when I'm on my own. But the experience of other people, of relationships, that's a different subject that I had to learn a lot about in this lifetime. And I could only learn that while I'm actually in relationships. You couldn't learn it while you're not in relationships and reading books about it or something. That's not enough. So you have to actually have the experiences of it. And for other people, it's, whatever it is, Trump has to experience the fame in order to learn from, what does that actually mean for the soul? And everybody has a Rahu somewhere. So
yes, everybody has Rahu somewhere, and that's why a reading is so powerful, isn't it? Because rather than generalizing it, we can get really specific with it. And as a Jyotishi, it's so interesting to sit and consider what Rahu means in a particular house, but what he also means in a particular sign, of course. And then we look at the aspects of Rahu, because again, they're so mysterious that even their aspects are not agreed upon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. But what we do know, that is what most people, I think, would agree on, that at least Rahu feels very comfortable in Aquarius, where he's just heading into. Whether he's at home there or or is the second owner beside Saturn of the place or not, but he is definitely very comfortable there. So he will develop a good amount of strength while he's there, manifesting in that area.
I think this is going to be more positive from May. It's going to break the Saturn Rahu conjunction anyway, because they're going to be together. And I think we mentioned in a previous podcast, when Saturn and Rahu come together, there's often a lot of conflict. It's like the death before the rebirth and the transformation. But the qualities of Aquarius, they're humanitarian.
Mm-hmm.
They are all about asserting your freedom and finding your freedom. It's eccentric as well, and this could be good energy for the world.
It could be very good. Now, I'm sure there is also a lot of, because Aquarius is also modern technology, internet, AI, and all of these things, and with Rahu in it, I'm sure there'll be a lot of development in that area as well. But as you said, it's also about the common people. It's, Saturn is in it, and it's about human rights and, organizations for the rights of people and common people, not the 1% that already has everything, but really people maybe coming together as well to support each other. That would be nice to see. So I think a lot can happen while Rahu is transiting Aquarius.
And as you say, they're always present. And in times of challenge, the recommendation really is always the same. Sadhana, do your practice, and work with this energy. It's transformational. Absolutely. Just think of, the forked tongue of the snake, as we say, the poison and the amrita, the poison and the regenerative. It is regenerative as well. And it's really showing us that maybe old patterns, this old karma that perhaps you've brought in with you, once it's resolved, like a snake shedding its skin, we can evolve.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And also, I think, when you have Rahu in the chart, you look at many things. You look at, like you say, the aspects and where is Rahu in the house, where is Rahu in the sign. And also you look at the strength of Rahu and the degree of Rahu. Like you said, your Rahu is your Atmakaraka, which is really interesting as well. It's a very interesting Atmakaraka to have. And you can really see maybe as well that Rahu is a demon, and it's a shadow planet, and it's called a malefic planet, and it has the potential to give a little bit of grief, but at the same time he has a real power to manifest. And when we are, and this is for every planet, even the most benefic planet has a shadow side. And I think the difference, whether we experience a planet as positive or negative, is mostly consciousness. It's how conscious are we? And it's the Yoga Sutras, Abhyasa and Vairagya. Are we able to really be conscious and accept the quality of that planet or the quality of the time that I have right now completely? And am I able to let go of expectations? Because if I can do that, then Rahu can also be, for example, Rahu in Aquarius could also be a real strong political activist who fights for a really good cause and manifests a better world in that way. That's also Rahu. And, so it really just depends on what we make of it. And that's the beauty of that interplay between free will and karma, what's already written, because we get the certain quality, we get the planets, but, we will have that energy and we will have that be in that area. We will move around that area, but how we move around that area, that's up to us, if we move in that area with a smile or, so.
Yeah, and just be ready for change, both on the level of the psyche, the world. Is this not teaching us exactly what yoga teaches us? We cannot attach to our bodies as they are because they're changing, attaching to thoughts, they're transient, attaching to our external circumstances. Well, we're certainly learning now that nothing is a given.
Yeah.
So it's a reminder. It's a reminder it's a remembering, because of course all of this we know on a deep soul level. So we can read all the books we want about it, but rather than evolving outside of ourselves, it's about just going back in and just remembering.
Yeah.
And this is where the planets are pointing us. And funnily enough, Rahu for me is in my 9th house of Dharma, of purpose. It's the highest house of purpose.
Yeah.
And of
higher knowledge.
Say again?
And of spirituality.
Spirituality, higher knowledge. And, as you know, I have a deep obsession there. Insatiable. It's there with my sun, which is my sense of self, and Mercury, which is exalted, which is my intellect. Wow. So you can see why I'm studying Vedic astrology. It's right there in my 9th house.
Absolutely, yeah. It must be a very strong desire for spirituality, to evolve through spiritual methods. That's a beautiful placement of Rahu. And also it's a beautiful placement, but it's a beautiful way of, making the best possible manifestation out of it that you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I wonder, was that ever a choice? None of it is a conscious decision. It's the path. And I suppose we are so lucky because we have access to look at these charts and go, oh yeah, of course. That's why. That's why.
But, there are other people, who else had Rahu in the 9th house was Hitler.
Oh.
And you could see that as well, maybe because he also had a desire for spirituality, and he did also, I don't know how deeply he got involved in Vedic philosophy, but he definitely did. Like, he used the swastika, which is an old Vedic symbol.
That's right. Yeah.
He was a vegetarian, and he, talked about Aryans, and, he was definitely involved in Vedic teachings to some degree. But
he had a deep interest in mysticism.
Very much, yeah. But there was Rahu's aspect of being a little bit of giving him an illusion of something, and I don't recall his complete chart now, but whatever way his chart panned out, it was also a desire for spirituality. He also had that desire for spiritual knowledge, but for him,
and he was a failed artist. He's a Venus. Yeah. Venus is his lord.
Yeah.
And he's a failed artist. And I remember looking at our chart thinking, my God, if he hadn't got turned down by art college.
Yeah.
And another thing about him is one of his nakshatras, the words that are associated with the nakshatra was the will or the want to have perfect children. I thought, well, that describes eugenics, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we do share that. I hope that's all we share.
Yeah, but that just goes to show you, in which way one aspect, one planet in the birth chart can turn out in such different manifestations.
Of course, it's so complex. No charts are the same. And, even if they kind of look the same, we just have to dig a little bit deeper. They're so different. Everybody is so complex and so full of contradictions.
Absolutely.
It's no wonder we can't barely understand ourselves, if not understand other people. This is what's so fascinating.
That's it. Yeah.
So hopefully it makes us a little bit more understanding.
Yeah. I mean, the chart generally, I think it helps so much. It helped me so much to understand myself and to understand what is going on and why something is going on. And in many clients as well, I can see it, when you're faced with, oh, this is why I am the way I am, and this is, why this is happening, and I understand it now. And sure, if the stars even say so, then it must be right.
I came in as I was supposed to come in, and I'm on the path I'm supposed to be on. It shuts down that inner narrative of, why are you not like other people? Why do you feel the need to do this when it goes against maybe something your partner wants? It's so freeing because it's completely validating.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's uniqueness, everyone's really beautiful individuality is just shown there, shining, literally shining, from the sky. And yeah, to see that, it's just, and also to see that everything is transient, whatever difficult time someone might be going through right now, but you can actually see it through the dashas, through the transits, that all this is temporary. And when we come out of it, then we bring back a treasure. It's all like a hero's journey, isn't it? We travel through our adventures and we fight the demons, our inner demons, and then we come out, with
hero's journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually start as an orphan, isn't that usually and then we realize we're special, and then we go on our epic journey, and there's obstacles along the way, and then we return home and realize, we knew everything all along anyway.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wonderful, Aoife. It was beautiful talking to you.
It's lovely to talk to you again, Sandra, and I'm sure we'll do another podcast soon. I think
we will, because we have to, because we got some questions that we will address the next time. So
great. I love a topic. I'll hit the books.
And
my favorite.
Will do that. Thank you, Aoife, and I look forward to the next time.
Bye, Sandra.
Bye. You were listening to a podcast by the Little School of Happiness. For more information, please go to sandrahayes.eu, or if you are in Germany, sandrahayes.de.